So,
well, let me go ahead and say something hyperbolic here and tell me what you think.
Go ahead.
Seems to me a nation state is communism, from each according to their ability to each according to their security needs. I mean, if we're talking about the most minimal state, that's what we're talking about, right? Is communism in, at the very least, keeping foreign countries out.
Yeah, I guess so, in the sense that... in fact,
or take police protection too in your neighborhood, right? That's the whole theory. Is maybe the richer people pay more, but even if you're flat broke, you can call 911 and they'll come and help you.
Yeah, in that sense, it is the same basic principle, which is why it's been said that as soon as you admit any taxation whatsoever, then you are implicitly accepting all of state socialism, because you're giving away the basic principle, which is that there is a group of people in society who get to act in a way that no one else is allowed to act. But don't worry, they're going to limit themselves. And don't worry, we'll have elections every 4 years, in which competing fat cat companies will get to pick which candidate they want, and that should basically keep us all secure. That's the mythology that we've all been fed, that if we just have a constitution or we just limit the thing, you're going to limit something that's been given a monopoly on the power to tax and initiate violence? How's that been working for you? Is that turning out okay?
Actually, I have a problem. Not quite satisfied with, the Bill of Rights is completely thrown out. Hey, let me ask you this, co-author of Who Killed the Constitution. Was there ever a court case in American history where the court said that the Ninth Amendment says what it says and counts for anything at all?
That's a good question. I don't actually know the legal history of the Ninth Amendment. Randy Barnett has written a book on the Ninth Amendment. He'd be worth consulting. But it's interesting to note that Robert Bork, not long ago, totally dismissed the Ninth Amendment on the grounds that nobody really knows what it means. Nobody knows what it means? I know what it means.
I do, too. It's, I think, in pretty clear English.
Yeah, but honestly, Kevin Gutzman would know that. But yeah, honestly, and indeed with the 10th Amendment, it's interesting that the history of the 10th Amendment, in the early 1940s, we were just summarily told the 10th Amendment is a mere tautology and therefore has no teeth. Huh. That's funny. I wonder why all the colonies, now then states, insisted so strongly on including a tautology in the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, because they were ignorant farmers. Actually, well, as long as we're on the subject, and I know you got to go here, I got to cut you loose, but the Bill of Rights, if you read it, before Amendment 1 begins, it has a preamble there that explains that a number of state conventions refuse to ratify the Constitution unless further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. And so here they are, so that you'll trust the new government, it says. Now, as a list of declaratory and restrictive clauses, it's obviously not referring to your liberty, Tom. This is what we now call the Bill of Rights. If it's a Bill of Restrictions and you look at the language, it is clearly a list of declaratory and restrictive clauses placed against the government by you, presumably. Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because most people don't know there is a preamble to the Bill of Rights, but there is. We put it in the appendix to Who Killed the Constitution. And it seems to me that the United States Constitution is the best, most pure example you can find in history of a so-called minarchist government, a minimal state where it's just going to do these very, very, very strictly necessary, supposedly, services to protect people's rights, and we're even going to have a Bill of Rights in it that spells this all out, and we'll have a Ninth Amendment that says, don't think that just because we only listed some rights here, those are the only rights you have. You have a whole bunch of unenumerated rights. We couldn't possibly list them all with all the paper in the world. And then the 10th Amendment saying, and by the way, if we forgot anything, the government can't do that either. I mean, this is as clear as you can possibly get, and it leads to this. In fact, think of it this way: a minarchist government also is supposed to be there to protect you against murderers and whatever. But strictly speaking, the U.S. Constitution doesn't even protect you against murderers. Your state constitution does that. So the U.S. Constitution is actually even weaker than the classic minarchist government that we're told to place our trust in, and yet even this one yields you a system like we have now that just seems like the only possible way we could ever get out from under it isn't by voting the right people in, but just by waiting for it to collapse. If this one doesn't work, what are we waiting for? What kind of unicorn is this creature, this minarchist government that stays strictly limited to its enumerated powers? Where is it? I want to see an example of it. Yeah, well, I'm waiting around. I guess we'll just have to abolish the state and replace it with freedom and private property, and then that way we won't have this monopoly that gets to ignore all those market feedback mechanisms and continue to grow no matter what it is that people want, which is exactly what we've got. It really is hard to distinguish the economics of American empire from the economics of the Soviet one. It's just a matter of degrees, isn't it?
And in both systems, they exploit the general public. They take their wealth and they squander it in areas that enrich the people at the top and that kill an awful lot of people and just create poverty and death everywhere. And they train us to wave tiny little flags and support this. I mean, that is serious brainwashing.
All right, everybody, that's Dr. Tom Woods. He's a senior fellow at the Ludwig von Mises Institute. He's the author of a gigantic pile of books, including Who Killed the Constitution, co-written with Kevin Gutzman, and We Who Dared Say No to War, co-edited with Murray Polner, 33 Questions You're Not Supposed to Ask About American History, and Meltdown. Go get Meltdown and read it. A free market look at why the stock market collapsed, the economy tanked, and government bailouts will make things worse. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Scott.